In this video, we're going to analyze those controls that are going to allow us to display collections as part of the application. First, we're going to study a control called carousel view, and for it I have created a new page called collections control demo. That is the one that we have placed as initial page, and it is this one that we are seeing in screen. We're going to create a control of this type, changing the control label by the control carousel view. When we work with this type of controls that allow us to display collections, we need to use a data source, and there are different ways to assign the data source to a collection. Because we have not yet reached the topic of MVVM, we will proceed to define as part of the carousel view a property that is called item source. In this property, we can define a collection or an array of items as part of the information source. In this way, we are declaring an array containing only text strings, and through this syntax we have added different elements to the list. In this way, we have filled in the data source information for the carousel view control. Let's see how the application looks like. And here we can see the control being displayed. We can scroll the different elements of the collection, but realistically this doesn't look very good. We need a way to assign some kind of layout to the collection of elements. Fortunately, there is a way to do this. Let's go back to the XAML code. And as part of this control, we have a property called item template, which is going to allow us to define how each of these elements that are part of the collection are going to look. And as part of this property, we must define a property called data template to begin to define the visual appearance of the elements of the control. Regularly, a layout is usually used to be able to define designs composed by several controls in the data template. In my case, I have already created a layout called stack layout, and inside I have simply created a frame with a label control. You can see that in the label control, we have assigned to the text property a little strange syntax that we have not yet studied. But what we are doing in simple terms is to link each of the elements that are part of the list to a label element. If we visualize the application at the moment, we can see that we can already move between each of these elements, and each of them has a completely different appearance to the one we had at the beginning. Now, a problem that we currently have with this carousel view control is that we have no idea in which element we are. We don't know if the current element is the last one, if it is an element near the beginning, or what is the position of this element. There should be a way in which we could know in which position we are. To know, for example, in a step-by-step tutorial in which step we are. Fortunately, there is also a way to do this thanks to the .NET Maui framework. And to add an indicator linked to the carousel view, we have to define a control called indicator view. I'm going to paste a piece of code that contains an indicator view control. We are assigning a value to horizontal options. We also set a color for the indicator, and likewise, we're indicating that we want to set a color that gives us an idea about the position that we're in. Also, something very important is that we are assigning a name to this control, since we're going to use it later. If we currently go to the application, we still cannot see the indicator view control. The problem is that, although we have defined it, we have not specified what is going to be the relation of the carousel view with the indicator view. Notice that they are not part of a hierarchy. So, we must use the name of the indicator view control to indicate that this carousel view control is going to have a relationship with this control. And how can we do this? Simply using a property called indicator and passing as parameter what is the name of the indicator view control, which in this case is indicator view. You must use the same name specified in the property xName of the indicator view control. This way, let's see how the application looks like. And we can already see the carousel view control, but this time it is already showing the indicator view that indicates us in which element we are. We have a color for the indicators, and we have a different color for the current element. This is how we can implement an indicator that is related to the carousel view and that allows us to know in which element we are. We're going to see the second type of control that is going to allow us to display listings. I am going to proceed to comment this code that we have pasted previously, and I will also comment this stack layout, since normally a listing uses all the available space in a page. So I'm indicating that the main element of this content page is going to be the listing. As part of the listing, we are once again defining the data source. In this case, we define an array of strings as we did with the carousel view, and we also define through the item template property how this list of elements is going to be seen. In the specific case of the list view control, we must define after the data template tag a special tag called viewCell that will allow us to customize how each of the rows will be seen. And then what we are doing is to use the same code that we had for the carousel view, only this time we're going to define each one of the rows for a list view type control. With this change, if we return to the application, we can see that we already have the list of different elements. However, the words that are part of each row do not look good. This is because each one of these elements has a different height, therefore we must return to the list view control and we have to specify the property has uneven rows equal to true, so that the elements are displayed in a better way. This way, we can see how the elements are displayed in a better way thanks to the use of this property. Also, we can select each one of the elements to carry out some type of processing. I am going to proceed to comment the list view section, and we're going to see another of the controls that allow us to manage data lists. It is the control called collection view. The collection view is a control that came out after the list view control in the original Xamarin Forms framework, and as part of this control, we will also define an item source. We're going to define an item template, but the difference is that in this specific case, we don't have to use a viewCell tag, but directly after the data template, we can define a layout to define each of the items that are going to be part of the collection view. Once again, we are reusing the layout we have seen previously. Let's see what this looks like in action. We can view the list using the collection view control from the information and layout we have assigned. If we try to select an item, we cannot do so, as we must enable a property as part of the XAML code. This property is a property called selection mode, which by default is set to none. If we wanted to be able to select a single element, we could do it through the single value, or if we wanted to select multiple elements, we could do it through the multiple value. For example, let's select the single value, and if we go back to the application, we see that we can select one element at a time. If we change the value back to a multiple value, we will be able to select multiple items from the list. Another great advantage that this control offers us over the list view control is that we can create columns. Here we see the next control, which is the control called picker. We are defining it inside a stack layout element, and for the case of this control, we define its vertical options. Again, we define a data source, which is the same list of strings to fill in the information of the picker control. Once we go to the emulator, we can see the control that we can select, and that is going to show us the set of different elements that we previously indicated in the list of strings. If we select one of the elements, it will be the element shown as part of the picker control. Finally, we have a control called table view. I am going to proceed to comment this code once again, and I'm going to paste a definition of a table view control. This control will allow us to display a table of elements to define different sections. A control of that type is normally used to show elements in which each row has a different appearance, like a menu of settings of an application, for example. Here we can see how it is implemented. We have the table view control, to which we have to assign an intention. That is what we're going to use it for. We can use different values. In our case, we're going to indicate that we want to use the table view as a configuration table. We must define a table root element and later different elements of type table sections, which are going to be the different sections of the table. Within this section, we will define each of the controls that are part of that section. Unlike the previous controls, we must use special controls within the table, such as this one called text cell, which contains a text type property for details and a property to assign a main text. We also have a control that allows us to enter information called entry cell. Here we can establish what is going to be the information text for the entry element and what is going to be the text entered for this control. We also have a control which is a switch cell type control, to which we can define an information text. And also to specify an image, we can use this control called image cell. We can define a source, which in this example is going to be the one we have used called .NET Bot. We define a second table section, which is the same as the one we have previously analyzed. Let's see how this is displayed in the emulator. And here we can see what this table looks like with each of the elements that we have defined. We have in the first place a text cell that shows us only information. We have an entry cell element that allows us to enter information. We also have a switch cell that allows us to select a value as true or false, and we have an image cell to display an image as part of this form. And this is how we can create this type of pages easily, in which we can use these cell type controls that are already configured to build the tables in a very fast way.